Dear Shrestha viewers, welcome to Shrestha Gnanadayini. Today we are going to discuss about what are floods and how does it cause an effect on our lives and its measures. So I hope you will enjoy this video till the end. Before going into the video, if you are new to my channel, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel Shrestha Gnanadayini, hit the bell icon for recent updates. Like and share these videos with all your loved ones. Violet, let's start. Now, what are these floods? Basically, have an idea? Okay, floods are like a common disasters that happens. So that cover a body of land with water, etc. Now we can see recent places that were flooded and that is covered with full of water, and that will be stagnant for some few weeks also. So that will affect large human life and animal life, etc. on the earth. Like we have seen the news also, like many people houses are drowned with water, and some weeks and months they have to vacate their places and go somewhere, and they have to repair all their houses again. And even many vehicles have damaged, they had to bring new vehicles. And many animal lives, like the snakes and all entered into houses, very poisonous things. So either we hit them or it hit us. So it was very dangerous situation, and it will be a dangerous situation always in this kind of floods time. So now you understood by this time, I think you have an idea about what is floods. It is caused by a combination of heavy rainfall causing rivers or oceans to overflow with their banks. So not only rainfall but also with the overflowing rivers. People will be having an idea of the rivers and its overflow levels. So they have to be taken proper measures if that overflow doesn't affect them. So if it is so, then they have to suffer. So now here there are many lakes in our surroundings, and also that might overflow sometimes, then the whole villages and cities will affect with that, and water will be stagnant for some weeks and months, and that will again lead to some diseases and all. To repair that again it takes few months of time. So all these things are the consequences of floods. So causes of floods again we will discuss in detail now. The many huge causes or causes of floods are as follows. Like heavy rainfall results flooding. Firstly, yes or no? So when there is a heavy rainfall, the water which is already stagnant, that doesn't leave somewhere, and it doesn't have the time to get completely sinked into the land. So what will happen, the excess of rainfall might cause to the floods, because the water keeps wandering here and there, and the people have to move from the same water. So again it is a very dangerous situation. When heavy rains occur, what happens? Water doesn't drain quickly, which it needs to. In addition with that, there is no proper drainage systems to move rainwater or appropriate basin or reservoirs that can stop flooding. So that's the higher cause, that is that heavy rainfall results in flooding. And then the second one is overflowing of rivers. First of all, there is no proper system of saving this water. Then where all this wastage water goes, and per se, like from on top of that we have overflow of rivers. So if rain pours heavily, the rivers will fill with water quickly, and then excess of water flows out of, like floods. So that also causes. And broken dams. So the dams and all the proper connections should be checked before releasing the water, or like whenever we have a heavy rainfall, the dams and the connections and the everything should be properly checked. Otherwise what happens is, when heavy rains occur and the water level rise, aging dams can fail and it leads to floods because the dams cannot control the water pressure. And then what happens? Melting snow and ice. Yes, the huge form of water is turned as snow and ice. It's looking beautiful or something. It's like stored at some place. But imagine that when it melts, what's the situation? Now we know the entire one continent about Antarctica or something. It is completely icy zone, or the polar zones is completely icy. Now when it starts melting, what happens is, where does all this water go and what will happen? So heavy snowfall during winters, other precipitation can also leads to floods and storm surges and tsunamis. These are the highest forms of floods. Whenever it is happening, not village, some villages, some cities, etc. gets down. So some storm surges related to hurricanes and some other storms can lead to significant flooding. So these are all the causes of floods, that is heavy rainfall, and second one is overflow of rivers because of not controlling the waters in broken dams, and melting snow and ice, and storm surges and tsunamis. So these are the 5 causes of floods. Now how can it cause destruction? That is also the thing which we have to understand. Okay, it will cause, but what is the consequences because of that we have to face? That is loss of human life, deterioration of health conditions owing to waterborne diseases, again epidemic, especially malaria, cholera, etc. That same drama which we have discussed in the old things and old videos. Flood disrupt public and personal transport by cutting off roads and railway lines, and many trees fall down. So plants life is also miserable, and it breaks communication links by damaging telephone lines and disrupts the power supply. The another thing to be very careful is about the power supply and transformers or something like that. We have to check, like the wires are not, the current is not passing through that when there is a higher rainfall and the water is stagnated, and if a current wire falls into that, there are many cases that people have died due to the current shocks when it was in the water. So all these kinds of things can also happen. So because of floods, that is not about, it is not limited to a corner, like only these things are done because of flood. There are many other problems also. It affects on the agriculture, it affects on the industries, it affects on the human life, plant life, etc. And drastic effect is on agriculture produce, because they cannot produce. Villages, they have some agricultural lands. When the seas and oceans or rivers over floods, what happens? All the water comes into the fields, and what happens? It will disrupt and distract everything, and that will correctly come at the time of hampering crops. And then loss of property is unprecedented, which means definitely there is going to be a loss of property. Either they have to repair it, otherwise they have to migrate from that place. So these are the consequences that we face. Now when you have understood this, then you can easily also term your measures. Yes or no? What are those? There should be a permanent monitoring system to warn the risk of floods. Obviously we have the weather stations, and issues regulations banning further population residing in, and also access to identified risk zones, and implementing specific protective systems such as alarm signals. Then what we have to do? We have to construct the houses above the flood level. So people will be constructing at down level houses and all. So what they think is that we have the area, we constructed it, but we have to see the upcoming future risk. Here I want to tell a small story. In Ramayana, when Rama, Sita, Lakshmana were there in Vanvas time, they had seen all the situations, and they Sita warned Lakshmana not to build the house in one particular zone at that region. Why? Because there she observed that always the birds will form a nest near to the tree, but they have formed at the very upper branch. So why is this happening? And one day, without listening to Sita, the Lakshmana started building the ashram there. What happened? One day a huge flood came and it vanished the entire place. So the universe and the nature indirectly tells us some things, and we should also plan, like how, when, where we have to plan our location exactly. So Sita has warned the upcoming future difficulty that our house is going to get flooded and we are going to drown completely, so don't want. But they didn't listen, so they have seen what happened, and then they have gone to such a safe place. There they have again reinvented a new house which is safe from all the kinds of dangers, from where they can also monitor the all the kinds of weather changes and also things. So this is a small story which I wanted to quote here, because like here we have seen about this different kinds of systems, like as I said, here we are learning about constructing houses to the extent possible. Here I wanted to quote that. I hope it is relevant and interesting as well to make the topic interesting. There is no other way. We have to take some stories in between that will energize our in study levels, and it also motivates us. So, and also construction of dike parallel to the rivers is also preferred for the blockage of the floods, and then intensive grazing and also deforestation may be controlled. And the glacial lakes, which seems to possess the possibility of outburst, such to be identified and also drained out to minimize damage. Then what you have that the other thing is that flood measuring stations. We have weather stations, in the same way we also have flood measuring stations should be made at flood regions. So where do you think, in a coastal area or at a place where there is a huge water content, in such stations and in such regions you have to maintain a flood measuring stations, and proper drainage system should also be constructed to divert the excessive rainwater. So these are the things to be done to protect oneself from floods. So I hope I made relevant to the topic and it was very interesting. If so, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel Shrestha Gnanadayini. Kindly like, share and stay tuned to my channel. Thank you.